stand, guys. I'm struck by John's humanity and humility with everything that he's done in his career, and our next speaker, Robert Craven, I think has some similar DNA. He's a very calm and soft-spoken almost person, but has a real strength in his convictions to do things his own way. And he's going to talk a little bit about courage in his own life, and from past experiences of having watched him speak, I know he'll make it very personal. So he's the CEO of Megafood. He's a big proponent of big T transparency, as he calls it. They're really making an organizational commitment to curing nutritional poverty, and he has been engaged in farmer and food issues for a long time. Welcome to the stage, Robert Craven.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I want a big hand for Adam and his brother for hosting a great event. So thank you guys, Butler Brothers. I think as Adam mentioned, my name is Robert Craven, and I'm a raging idealist. Hello, Robert. Hi, Robert. So maybe some of you identify with that term. Look it up. It probably describes you very, very well. So just to jump in, I want to tell you a little story. So back in May of 2014, go back a few years with me, I got the first phone call, the first call. And the first call was from my mom. And I'm an only child, so my mom and I are pretty tight, whether I like it or not. This guy in the middle here, happy guy in the middle, his name is Doug, and he is my Uncle Doug. So that is my aunt right there in the middle, Aunt Janice. She is my father's sister. So I kind of grew up with Aunt Janice. Amazing. But my mom shared with me that Doug's prognosis was not good. He had been struggling with a disease called PKD, polycystic kidney disease, for many, many years. And if you're not familiar with PKD, it's pretty horrible. Uncle Doug's kidneys were 35 pounds at this point and covered with cysts. He could not play golf, he could not move around, he could not wrestle without one of these cysts bursting. And every time it would burst, he'd have to go in the emergency room and get immediate treatment. 3 to 4 times a week, he was in the doctor's office, and he was on a kidney transplant list. The doctors finally said, you need to get on this list, or you're going to have a pretty horrible life. His numbers were plummeting. His prognosis was basically to be hooked to a dialysis machine 4 times a week, 3 hours at a time for the rest of his life. The prognosis was also about 10 years worth of life. What complicated the matter was that he had a very rare blood type, and even though a cadaver can give a kidney, to find a match, a living match, would give him a better sense of life in terms of going forward, and a better opportunity for him to cure this disease, like really cure it. But the prognosis, the idea of getting this rare blood type from a living donor was very low. So then I received the second call. And I think the second call that I received was, right here in my heart. And that call basically said, hey, maybe you can help. So I called my aunt and I said, what are the options here? How's this working? Talk to me a little bit more about this. And she shared with me that they were looking for living donors. She had gone in and had her finger pricked. And it was basically a blood draw, and they test your blood against his to see if it might be a match. And she was a potential match. And so I said, okay, little voice again, second call, said, why don't you go in and try this out? So I went in and I gave some blood. And it turned out I was a potential match as well. And then off to Duke Medical Center, where my aunt and I spent 3 lovely days in Duke Medical Center going through every test known to man. Poked, prodded, I think at last count, I must have given about 40 vials of blood for various different types of tests. And through that process, my aunt was ruled out, but I was really blessed to be ruled in as a potential donor. So about a year later, excuse me. About a year later, I was really blessed to be able to give one of my kidneys to my uncle. They took both of his kidneys out because it was just so diseased, and they were able to put my kidney in, and it was very successful. I was in the hospital for about a week. He was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and then it was off to recovery. The really cool thing here is that he and I have been corresponding a lot since then, and he wrote me a letter. And he said, what's the biggest difference between before and after the surgery is that I can now dream again. And he said, not the sleeping kind of dreaming, but the dreaming about a potential and farther out and doing things and setting goals and objectives. And it touched me in a really, really deep way. This happened in 2015, folks, so I'm not looking to be a hero. It's not about that. I think that from my heart, I heard a small voice. I took a small step that turned into a bigger step. Deep conversations with my family, deep conversations with my wife. This is not a simple surgery. A lot of fear, a ton of fear to overcome. And it turned into something that I think was a very, very special outcome. So my uncle is doing very well today. So the lesson here, the two key things that I want you to walk away with is all of us have this little small voice, all of us. And I would bet you after the content that you've been hearing over the last couple of days, something might be whispering to you, something might be screaming at you. From the notes I've taken, there's a few things that are coming to my brain, right? We all have this little small voice that's telling you stuff, that's speaking to you. The key is to do something with it. And that the gap between understanding and listening and actually doing something with it is courage, is to have the courage to take even a small step. So the two key lessons here are listen to that small voice and then have the courage to actually do something with it. Does that make sense? Everybody with me on this? If you listen but you don't do, right? What's the point? So let me show you another example of courage, if you guys will cue the video. My favorite video on the planet, many of you have probably seen this. Many of you have seen this video. When I need a little charge, this is the video I watch. So go ahead and roll the video, yeah, please. So this guy, I don't know if it was his small voice or some other means of motivation, but he decided to get up in the middle of a very large crowd of people and start dancing in his short shorts. So we're going to get up and we're going to start boogieing here, and he's truly, truly enjoying this music and going for, okay, so we call this guy the early adopter, right? So he's in, they've got a nice tight connection. So our dancing guy is showing him how to do it, so now we're going to do it the right way. Small voice, takes shape. Sometimes we call this passion, right? So we might call this passion. The two founders are enjoying life here. Truly, truly valuable. Now, as we all know, passion is contagious. So another early adopter. Now that's true entrepreneurship right there. Abandon, risk, trying it out, right? So the passion starts to spread a little bit more. This one guy, the one dancing guy that heard the small voice that got so motivated, has now started a very small movement, small contained movement on the edges and the fringes of this field. It gets better, folks. One small person, one small guy, small voice, middle of the field, early adopters, pure passion, the emotion, the joy that you feel from that can make a tremendous movement. And it goes on and on and on. And the comfort that comes from that of joining together to make a movement is truly what this industry is all about. Would you guys all agree with that? This industry is where it's all at. So if you ever want to know if you can make a difference, just watch this video. I watch it quite a lot to make sure that everybody, I think even the cameraman is now dancing, right? One small voice, one small act of courage in his short shorts, right? I love this. Now, many of you, I'm just gonna go ahead and go forward, guys. Thank you. Now, many of you may be saying, I can't do this alone. I am too small. I can't make a difference. Maybe you're thinking that I can't make a difference. At our company, Megafood, we've invested in some consulting and some principles called the Conscious Leadership Group. Big fans of that, the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And they teach above the line and below the line. And above the line, the key to being above the line and thinking above the line is to be curious. So even in the face of a daunting challenge, like what you might be thinking in terms of food waste and the food insecurities and things we've been talking about, it may seem overwhelming. The point is to stay curious, ask a question, stay above the line. It's core to it. I would also just remind us that this is in our DNA. The natural products industry is all about courage. It's all about being conscious. It's all about taking things to the next level. So I would encourage everyone to listen to that small voice, write down what you're hearing, meditate on it, get some advice, call somebody that'll give you that courage, call somebody that'll talk you through that and help you get to the end of that rope, right? You can't do it alone. You are not alone in this room from a natural product standpoint perspective. As for us, MegaFood wants to walk out of here making a commitment. I've been inspired over the last few days and last few months, actually. We've actually just hired a VP of Social Impact. Her name is Sarah Newmark. We're ecstatic to have her on board. And she is going to help us organize our strategy around social impact and help us to really make a difference. By this time next year, we will be seen as leaders in the regenerative ag movement. That's something that's really high on our list. And she's going to help us organize our strategy in such a way that my goal is by the middle of next year to make some very bold statements on where we want to move our company and where we want to make our community, so that our community, our broader community, can hold us accountable to that. So for example, in the next 3 years, we will X. In the next 5 years, we will Y. Make some really bold commitments to waste and regenerative ag and some of the partnerships that we have from a supply chain standpoint. And I would just end today by saying it's really worth it to take that small step. The courage it takes when you get over that is huge. This is my Uncle Doug with his new grandbaby. He's playing golf. He's happy. He's excited. I am certain that he is glad that someone listened to their small voice and took a small step. So I would just encourage you guys to all do the same, all right? Thank you very much.